Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of SIMA Impact Chronicles. We have another exciting entrepreneur from all the way from Nigeria. I will just introduce him quickly before we jump into hearing the amazing story he has to tell. So today I have Adrian Clews. He is the founder of Hinckley E-waste Recycling, Hinckley Group actually. So he has moved to Nigeria in 2008 as the managing director of Hinckley Associates Nigeria Limited. Adrian developed the best class HP and Lenovo authorized service centers, expanding the business across Nigeria within 3 years. Today, Hinckley is the country's leading IT service provider and is expanding across Africa. Adrian started the Hinckley E-waste Recycling business in 2010 as a business unit under Hinckley Associates. In 2017, Hinckley became Nigeria's first government-approved e-waste recycler provider in providing end of solutions for all e-waste streams. In 2021, Adrian incorporated Hinckley E-waste Recycling Limited as a standalone entity and is currently the market leader and is responsible for ethical e-waste recycling practices. In 2023, Adrian and his team secured the Energy Access Relief Fund facility from SIMA to accelerate their energy access activities in Nigeria. So without further ado, let me bring him on. Hello, Adrian. Can you hear me?
Hi, Vivek. I can hear you well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking time out to join me today. And if you're ready, we can start off with some amazing questions about Hinckley and your work, the work you do.
Let's do it.
All right. So my first question is to understand the work you do. Like, if you can you provide me an overview of Hinckley E-waste Recycling, how it was founded, what motivated you to start this venture?
Yes, well, it's been quite a journey. I'll tell you where it began. As mentioned in your bio, thank you very much for that complimentary information about myself. So hopefully I can live up to that introduction. But yeah, so we were very heavily involved in repairing of HP laptops, desktops, printers in Nigeria. So we were the authorized service center for Hewlett-Packard. And in 2010, we had a conversation with HP about the end of life for their products. And at that time, there was no authorized e-waste recycler in the country. So we set about trying to put something in place. It took some time, a lot of patience, a lot of determination. But yeah, we're happy to say that we became the first government-approved e-waste recycler in the country. And one of our first clients was HP. So that's more or less where it started, trying to solve a problem for HP, but on a wider view, looking at the environment as a whole in Nigeria. I think there's something over like 100,000 tons of e-waste is generated every year in Nigeria.
Wow.
And at that time, there was no formal recycler in place. So that was a big problem, not just for HP, but for everybody. So we had no choice. We had to set about trying to set up something so we could tackle that problem. That was the motivation behind it. Yeah.
Right. E-waste is something which nobody thinks about too much, if I'm not wrong. Even in India, nobody thinks about it like other waste. E-waste is hidden in every house. Nobody cares about it. At the end of the day, it's just lying there and just there. Nobody worries about it too much. But good that you and your team is tackling the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems in Nigeria. That's fantastic. Right. So let me ask you. You decided to do a spin-off of Hinckley for e-waste recycling. What challenges did you face in the early stages of establishing this particular wing, and how did you overcome them?
Well, yeah, I think you just touched on one of the main problems. A lot of e-waste just gets junked in people's houses, and they just keep it in drawers, mobile phones. I'm sure we all have mobile phones stuffed away in drawers that we don't use anymore. Old televisions we refuse to let go. And because there's that perceived value attached to electronics, typically they don't enter the normal flow for waste. such as our general waste or things like plastic bottles, etc., which we really don't want to keep. But with electronics, it's a little bit different. So that was one of the first hurdles, was actually trying to let people understand that the electronics themselves, at the end of life, have very dangerous components inside them. In fact, e-waste is one of the most hazardous waste forms on the planet. This is where we can find things like lead and mercury, heavy metals, pops in the plastics, which is all can impact human health and the environment. So it's trying to raise the awareness, a lot of education about e-waste and how it should be correctly managed. And we did a lot of work around policy, working with the Nigerian government, the Ministry of Environment, trying to put policy in place and legislation, and then following up and trying to make sure that there was a level of enforcement to prevent the open dumping of e-waste or burning of certain e-waste components. And that's been very successful. So we've done a lot of work. In 2011, the first e-waste legislation was gazetted, and then most recently the extended producer responsibility policy has recently come into force. So this is a real game changer, and Hinckley's been at the kind of the heart of that and been very pivotal in trying to bring that about. So I would say they were the early challenges that we faced, was that kind of level of awareness and then lack of policy and enforcement around e-waste in Nigeria.
Right. Yeah, that gave me an idea that we should get some time together to talk about e-waste, do a session on it, because hardly people know about it. As you mentioned, my parents downstairs, they have mobile phones which I used in my college days. So it's been sitting there for a while. So we should talk about it sometime. Absolutely. Right. So let's talk about a little bit of the evolution of the company, right? So how has Hinckley E-waste Recycling evolved since its inception? So if you can share some key milestones or achievements along the way, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, as I say, I mean, we first started looking at e-waste in 2010. I mean, at that time, Hinckley was not involved in the recycling sector. So it was quite a journey for us to sort of learn about the challenges in Nigeria, the challenges of the disposal of e-waste, the current processes, how the government are tackling those challenges, how the international community are tackling the challenges, and importantly, how the OEMs, the manufacturers of the electronics, were involved in solving this e-waste problem. So initially, we were not immediately looking to do the recycling ourselves. We were just facilitating discussions around it. But in 2017, we received a grant from DG KfW, and this sort of accelerated or facilitated our plans to establish Nigeria's first ever e-waste recycling plant. So in 2008, that plant was set up and opened, and and we immediately set about trying to engage with businesses, with OEMs, with local communities, and letting them know that they can bring that e-waste to us. In 2019, we received a grant from CLASP, which was funded by UKAID, USAID, and the Shell Foundation, and that was specifically around recycling lithium-ion batteries, predominantly from end-of-life solar solutions. So that also was a game changer for us, and it allowed us to start looking at lithium-ion batteries, not only as a problem, but also as an opportunity. Yeah, and then we upgraded our recycling plant in 2021. So we sort of quadrupled the size of the plant, and we now have a plant over 2,000 square meters, where we're receiving all e-waste streams, TVs, fridges, solar systems, mobile phones. Maybe your parents' mobile phones might come our way. I'll certainly check my parents' drawers as well if they have. So, yes, and then obviously most recently, we're happy to get access to the Energy Access Relief Fund under SIMA, and that was just the beginning of this year.
Right. So let me see the path you are on is a bit different than the companies which I normally talk to, right? People are on biogas and cooking solutions and solarization of schools, etc. This is totally different. So I would like to know what is the mission and vision of Hinckley E-waste Recycling, and how do you ensure that you stay true to your goals?
Well, it's always been a personal mission, not just a
Right,
corporate mission. And that was always to protect the environment and human health. And doing that through providing responsible recycling of
right,
electronics.
right,
And the vision has always been, to try and create job opportunities for men and women in the recycling sector. Before Hinckley was involved, it was very informal, and
right,
we've always looked to formalize it. So when we work with collectors, for example, we try and empower them. We try and offer them training. We run workshops where we teach them about the hazards of e-waste, how to handle them. And we also
right,
issue them with PPE. We provide medical checkups. So that's always been our mission, to do that. And our vision has always been to inspire the next generation to embrace recycling and protect the planet. So it goes
right,
back to what we were saying again before about awareness and issues around that. People not really understanding the dangers of electronics and the impact it can have on their health
right,
and the environment. So we the way we stay true to that, as I say, is frequent workshops, lots of awareness raising. That can be, through channels like this where we're doing interviews. We go on TV with press releases.
right,
But we go to schools. We've talked at schools about the impact and the environment and recycling. And with all these activities, we hope that we can inform the next generation, keep everybody focused on recycling, and making sure that at the end of life, people are making sure that their electronics are correctly and responsibly recycled.
right. Beautiful. We are so grateful that we are part of this journey with Hinckley, doing our bit to the planet. That's very critical at this point of time. Right. So let's get a little bit about the funding from Energy Access Relief Fund. So how has the Energy Access Relief Fund supported Hinckley in achieving its objectives, and any specific initiatives or projects have been made possible through this fund?
Yeah, it's been important to Hinckley. I think one of the things we mentioned earlier was about how do you access the e-waste? How do we get it out of people's drawers and get it out of their houses?
Right,
And what typically happens is that you have an informal collection network that goes to these people's houses or
right,
goes to places where the e-waste is aggregated. Maybe computer village in Ikeja, a place called Ortiba. It's a very large market where they sell electronics, but they also do a
right,
lot of repairs there as well. So a lot of the end of life electronics end up in these kind of communities, and collectors provide an incentive to remove those electronics and then pass
right,
them on to recyclers. But unfortunately, it's very informal right now, and that's where the health and environmental risks come in to play. So it's very important
right,
that formal recyclers like Hinckley also operate with the collectors, but in a formal manner. But the
right,
only way we can do that is by providing financial incentives to formal collectors to go out and source these electronics and then bring it back to a responsible recycler like Hinckley.
right,
And it's through these funds that it has enabled us to do that.
right,
99% of the e-waste wasn't coming to Hinckley before now,
right,
because the way we operated was we would always charge a gate fee to businesses, and they would pay us to remove their electronics. That
right,
works with large organizations in the oil and gas sector, telco sector, but that doesn't work in local communities and in household environments and repair shops. You have to financially incentivize these people and communities and organizations to release the e-waste. So that
right,
requires funding, and that
right,
funding wasn't available to Hinckley before. So now that funding is in place, hasn't completely changed the game for Hinckley. We now no longer have to rely purely on gate fees and B2B engagement, we can now operate a proper formal collection process, providing financial incentives to collectors to bring the e-waste to us and make sure it follows this formal recycling process. So this is a real game changer for us. So already, the project started, the fundings were provided earlier this year, and already we're now seeing a 50% increase in our e-waste feedstock volumes compared to what we were seeing last year.
Wow, quite a paradigm shift. Yes.
And a lot of that e-waste that we're getting comes from solutions, energy access solutions like solar systems.
Right.
So it actually enables us now to, solar systems going to place are fantastic, very useful in Nigeria, but at some point they reach the end of life. What happens to the batteries, to the plastics, what happens to the solar panels, all those things need to be treated. And we're now in a position where we can now receive those end-of-life feedstocks, not just from solar anyway, but solar as well. So when we're looking at energy access, I think this is a really key piece of the puzzle.
Fantastic. Glad to hear that. Right. So a lot of the borrowers who are coming on these sessions are talking about the impact of COVID, and then the funding happened and that changed things for them. So my next question is related to that. It may not apply to you, but you are the best judge of that. I'll leave it to you. So how has the Energy Access Relief Fund contributed to the financial sustainability of Hinckley? And have you been able to invest in any new technologies or resources as a result of this funding?
Yeah, like many companies across the world, COVID was a very difficult time for us. A lot of the companies we were working with, a lot of our customers were multinationals, like we've already mentioned, HP, Lenovo, Canon, Shell, DHL. A lot of these large companies shut down their offices. And for us, this is one of our major sources of revenue. So it was definitely a problem, and it's taking a long time to recover from that. I'm happy to say now we're seeing the business returning to sort of pre-pandemic levels. But the funding has kind of kickstarted that for us. It sort of accelerated our recovery, if you like. So this growth we're seeing now is helping us sort of return back to where we were pre-pandemic. But obviously it's not going to stop growing. We expect that growth to continue. And as our feedstocks increase, obviously our revenues are increasing. And what we are looking to do is to reinvest some of those profits into new technology. Most importantly, currently would be the problem that we have in Nigeria right now is treating complex e-waste fractions, hazardous fractions. And a lot of the time we have to export it. Very expensive, very complicated. We want to try and find ways that we can manage some of these complex fractions locally in Nigeria, thereby reducing our own costs, allowing us to provide higher incentives to receive the material, and then also creating jobs in the process as well.
Right. So my next question is connected to that. So based on the creation of jobs, has there been any impact due to the funding from Energy Access Relief? Has your team grown from earlier, or is it the same?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we brought on an additional 15 staff right now. 50% of them are women, 50% men, and for us, we're maybe one of the later entries because we received the funding earlier this year. So that's this is almost an earlier stage for us, but we do expect many more jobs to be created as a result directly within Hinckley. But as I mentioned, we're already engaging collectors and registering them with Hinckley and formalizing them, providing them with these trainings and this PPE, doing these workshops. And that will also create work and wealth for people not employed by Hinckley, but the people within the collection sector who are bringing e-waste to us and receiving financial incentives for doing that. So the scope is very broad, and in Nigeria there's over 100,000 collectors right now operating. So if we can even get half of those, to start registering with Hinckley and undergo our trainings and start collecting e-waste on our behalf, then I would say that would have a significant impact. So that's really our goal.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is going to happen for sure. I've seen the impact numbers which you have shared with me. Even though you received the funding recently, in the short period of time, the impact is immense. I can see it only growing from there. Fantastic. Right. So, talking about the impact, I don't know whether you have these figures on as back of your hand, but can you quantify the direct impact of the Energy Access Relief Fund on Hinckley's ability to create positive change and address the issue of e-waste?
Well, as I already said, yeah, I mean, our feedstocks of e-waste have gone up by 50%, which is phenomenal.
Right, right.
That's huge, and out of that 50%, probably 10% of that e-waste is from end-of-life solar equipment.
Right.
So looking at it from an energy access perspective, that's a significant amount of solar waste which would have otherwise gone into dump sites and ended up causing environmental problems and health problems. So it's still early stage, but certainly we expect that growth rate to continue as the year continues and going into next year. So I'm sure by next year we should be able to give you a tonnage of material that was removed from the informal sector and would have otherwise ended up in dump sites or being burnt and going through our formal recycling process. So that's what we can report today, and then certainly be coming back with more impact figures as we progress.
Absolutely promising it is. Right. So my final question on Hinckley, before I have one last question for you. So what future goals or expansion plans does Hinckley E-waste Recycling have to further enhance its impact in the field of e-waste recycling?
Yeah. Well, again, one of the most upsetting issues that we face in Nigeria currently is from used lead acid batteries. There was reports and studies undertaken by United Nations in coordination with journalists from Germany and Nigeria, which found very high levels of lead inside soil and water samples, but also within blood samples taken from adults and children living in and around these battery recycling sites. Things are improving, and certainly the government is acting on that. But we feel Hinckley has a bigger role to play in ensuring things like lead, not only lead, but mercury, POPs. There's so many different hazardous fractions. Even the glass from computer monitors, old CRT monitors, also contaminated with lead. So even places where you don't expect to find it, it's there. Even in the light bulbs, we're finding mercury. They're still using a lot of the old CFL type bulbs. We haven't fully moved across to LED. So there's a lot of hazardous material out there. Hinckley wants to be in a position where we can ensure it doesn't end up in the environment and impacting human health. So we will be investing in facilities. And in fact, we've already invested in equipment to extract mercury from light bulbs. That's already in place now at Hinckley. And the next project will be to put in place battery recycling technology.
Fantastic. It's going to change so many lives, I'm pretty sure, not only job-wise, health-wise, and environment-wise. I'm pretty sure it will have a huge impact. Right. So that's all the questions I have about Hinckley and all that. One final question, if I may ask, it's for the future generation of entrepreneurs who might listen to you and are inspired to start something like Hinckley. If, any advice or insights you would give to individuals or organizations looking to start their own e-waste recycling initiative based on the lessons you have learned in your journey?
Yeah, well, it's been a journey. A journey is a good word. It is a journey, and it's an adventure. And I think one of the things I would advise is to stay true to your course. There was several organizations, individuals back in 2010 who are looking at starting e-waste businesses. But I can say that only 2 organizations stayed true to that course and actually put something in place. So you need a lot of patience, you need a lot of determination, you need to be resilient, and don't take no for an answer. You just have to keep pushing and going, even in the face of adversity. It's not it certainly was never meant to be a quick return. It's a slow burner. So as I say, if you're in it for a quick return on investment, then this is the wrong business for you. It has to be more than just the financial benefits. It has to also be a passion for the environment, passion for human health, and just passion for the planet. That if you don't have that, I don't think this is the right sector for you. So and that's why I think we've been successful. I think the team and the people we employ all have that shared vision, and we've built fantastic relationships around that. And it's been a journey, it's been an adventure, but I wouldn't change anything.
Right. I love that. Don't take no for an answer. That's a beautiful, beautiful way to put it. And I certainly believe that the world needs more Adrians and Hinckleys. We are facing e-waste is one of them. We are facing a number of times. I hope more Hinckleys and more Adrians come up. And I am grateful for your time, Adrian, today. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to publish this and Hinkley's impact story on everywhere as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all the support. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye. All right. So that was Adrian Clews from Hinckley. What a beautiful story, right? What a beautiful journey. I'm so happy that, we at SIMA are eternally grateful for partners like Hinckley and all the partners who are coming on this Impact Chronicles. And saying that, I will sign off now and I'll be back with more SIMA Impact Chronicles. Thank you.